What are cryptocurrencies?
Hey, hey, hey.
What are NFTs?
A non-fungible token.
Time to buy Bitcoin.
Bitcoin just seems like a scam.
What's up? Bitcoin!
Hello everyone and welcome back to On The Ledger. This is your host Moel Sayed, back once again on your weekly rendezvous from Paris. Today is a special day and I'm personally very excited to be hosting this episode because today we're talking with MetaMask. As most of you know, MetaMask is the most popular gateway to the world of Web3. It's a software wallet that enables you to self-custody your assets and secure private keys online. As an increasing number of people are adopting crypto, there has also been an increase of user experience frictions and security issues like crypto hacks and scams. Some of you use ledgers with MetaMask, and if you don't, please do. You'll sleep better at night. But unfortunately, lately, our experience hasn't been great. Definitely not at the level that you people deserve. The good news is that our teams have been talking to each other for a while now, and it's clear that our values and visions are also very much aligned. Ledger and MetaMask both want to provide the safest and most accessible solutions to enable you to self-custody your crypto assets and navigate the realms of Web3. And this is exactly what we'll be talking about today, the MetaMask and Ledger Fix and Future partnership. To do so, I'm glad to welcome Jacob Cantele, Lead of Operations at MetaMask. Jacob, glad to be speaking with you once again. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
And as I said, super excited to be talking to you today. We'll be joined by no other than Charles Hamel, VP Product at Ledger. Charles, great to have you once again on the show. How have you been?
Excellent. Thanks for having me again.
As I said, very happy and excited to be kicking this one off with you. So without any further ado, On The Ledger, Season 2, Episode 7, MetaMask, Ledger, and the Future of Web3 Accessibility. Here we go. So let's start with our not so stupid questions. Jacob, how do MetaMask and Ledger work together? Like with regards to your vision on software and hardware, but for those uninitiated as well, to be able to understand the intricacies of both use cases.
Yeah, so it's a pretty exciting partnership that we've just announced together. We're working together on bringing deep Ledger support across both our browser extension and our mobile app. And you can look forward to hardware wallet support on MetaMask Mobile. Historically, it's been hard both because browser companies have a tendency to deprecate APIs or break existing integrations, and that definitely happened over the last year. And so we've partnered together, and by our teams working together, we can understand different pieces of the tech stack that maybe weren't as easy for a software team or a hardware team to understand by themselves. And so together we've launched this new integration for Ledger that is the best integration we've had, and is going to be a lot more stable and delightful to use for MetaMask and Ledger users.
Okay, that's great. And if I can kind of drill down on that with another question to you, Charles. It seems as though the safest solution to benefit from MetaMask's unique accessibility is to safeguard your keys using a ledger. But it's fair to say that the experience wasn't great lately. Why is that?
So as Jacob pointed out, the protocols and the standard in which MetaMask and the Ledger device talk to each other was deprecated at the browser, which means that it became very difficult for those two to talk to each other, and we had to use workarounds that made the whole user experience much more difficult for users. So that's the reason why I would say the overall integration was very much affected in these past few months, and why we came together and realized that our common users are really feeling this pain, and we need to solve this. And what came out of it was this agreement that together we will also improve on this integration in the future to make it even better than it is today.
That's great news for everyone that's listening to us. So as people are listening to this podcast now, I think they'd be aware that Ledger and MetaMask work together on a fix to make sure that the experience is at the level that you guys deserve. So Jacob and Charles, could you walk us through this collaboration and maybe outline what it means to both of our users, the Ledger users and the MetaMask users as well?
Yeah, so for quite a while in Chrome or any Chromium-based browser, it hasn't been possible to have a direct link between MetaMask and the Ledger. We lost that API that there was an API called U2F, and Google and then other related browsers like Brave all deprecated that particular API. So the Ledger was no longer able to communicate with MetaMask through those old methods. And as a result, we tried to work through bridging to the Ledger Live desktop app. It had some user experience challenges, and so we've developed a new integration that uses other native APIs and allows direct communication between MetaMask and the hardware wallet natively. That experience will be on par or probably slightly better than what Ledger users were used to before. It's going to be more stable. Both of our teams are going to be working on either side to support and develop that integration. The hardware wallet support itself is going to be a critical and first class part of our user experience. And so we'll increasingly make sure that as protocol upgrades happen and hardware wallets need specific upgrades, and these integrations will get maintained, and we'll work together on both sides. There's a lot of aspects of this support that require a hardware focused team or that require a software focused team. And to create a really great integration, it requires both of our teams to be deeply committed and to be working really tightly with each other. And so this new collaboration is going to help us think about the integration in ways that wouldn't be possible for just one side to maintain the integration or the other.
Yes, I think it's a great example of two companies coming together and contributing to an open source code base at the frontier of the new web. Right. So what we have now will be, as Jacob said, a bit better and more reliable than what was the case before. But also in the future, we want to make sure that it's also possible to connect the ledger, without having to create a software wallet, so that users don't have two seeds to take care of, and makes the whole process a bit more easier.
Yeah, that's great news. So basically now you won't need the Ledger Live bridge anymore. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the Ledger Live bridge was a workaround when this deprecation happened on the browser side. So now it won't be necessary, which means there's less steps required to use Web3.
If I could add one thing about the user experience and how it looks in the UI. So if you have accounts that were previously connected through the Ledger Live bridge, those will still be connected through the Ledger Live bridge. You can remove those accounts from your wallet and reconnect to the Ledger. So when you connect to the Ledger, you'll be able, the default option is going to be the new integration. And so the newly connected accounts will be the ones that have this great integration that I would say that the overwhelming majority of Ledger users would prefer.
That's great to know. So I'd like to move on to another question. MetaMask is the main entry point to the world of crypto. And with the fascinating year we've all had, you've basically grown from having 500,000 monthly users in 2020 to 10 million, if I'm not mistaken, in 2021. First of all, congratulations. It's great to see the space being adopted at such a rapid pace. But unfortunately, as we all can imagine, this comes with an increasing amount of hacks, scams, and user experience frictions. So my question is, how are you dealing with all of that at once?
So we've actually grown quite a bit since that announcement. That was about 3 months ago. We'll have another pretty exciting announcement to make on user numbers pretty soon. The phishing wave is pretty much unprecedented. we're seeing like bots on every post that people make in Twitter, and social networks like Telegram refusing to take down fake support channels. So we've actually hired and contracted an external company called Fishfort, and they are full-time working on the takedown of this, and are working in what's called a kill chain security model. So they map the entirety of each type of a phishing attack, or whether it's malware, or whether it's some form of fake chat room, or each type of scam. Rotten seed phrase scams are another one, where the attacker is having the user onboard through a compromised seed phrase, and they think they're onboarding through MetaMask, but they're onboarding through something else, and then end up in MetaMask with a seed phrase that's owned by the attacker. So those each of those types of scams, we're deploying campaigns against, many of which happen outside of the software. And then within the software itself, we have a new product that's been rolling out in MetaMask called LavaMoat, that does a form of secure sandboxing for every JavaScript dependency. So we're ensuring that there can't be supply chain attacks on MetaMask. And then within the user experience, we're making it easier and easier for people to use hardware wallets, for people to get their keys off of their device, for people to harden their security in every possible way. And we have a number of initiatives around this, and they'll continue to harden over time.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think education is going to be a big part of this as well. And we're happy to be collaborating with you with that. So, Charles, you've spent a big chunk of your career at Opera Browsers, and we've been talking about browser at the beginning of the conversation, and it seems like browser companies wield great power over the different APIs that are available to the users and developers, which kind of hinders the Web3's accessibility in general. Is there a way to liberate the space from this dependency?
Yeah, browsers have become this essential app. Basically, browsers are basically the meta app in which you access everything, especially on desktop. Right? I don't know about you, but having 4 windows with 100 tabs each is not uncommon. So they've become this all-encompassing app that runs everything, and that shows you the power of the web platform and what it has become. And a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we had quite wide browser diversity. A bit like operating systems back then. It's like Opera had its own engine. Apple had its, Google had its, and Mozilla. And web standardization was a big effort, because all of them had different ways to interpret this HTML and JavaScript, which made writing applications for the web a bit complex as a developer, because then you had to think about all these versions and different browsing engines. So, and the world converged to a few browser engines. Opera dropped its Presto engine many years ago. Now you see even Microsoft decided to move its Edge browser to Chromium, which is the underlying browser engines to Chrome. So even Microsoft, is kind of dropping the ball on having its own browser engine, and that means that we're left with a very not necessarily centralized, but very concentrated, very critical piece of software, which is this browser engine. Advantage to that is that now it's easier to write for the web platform, because you have less kind of edge cases to think about. But that means great power, as you mentioned, to who controls that browser engine. So long story short, it means that there is incredible power there, just as there is power at the OS level. Right? Now we have iOS, we have Android. We have Mac OS, and these things are merging to be fewer and fewer. So it is a very hard thing to not fight back, but at least try to prevent. But every company that is serious about the web, has at least a team of developers that is able to customize this browser engine. So there is always that avenue that's possible.
Yeah, that's good to know. Jacob, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think for our ecosystem generally, there is a challenge of platform risk, and it's increasingly important for us to find ways to avoid that platform risk, and really to argue for open standards and to promote interoperability between applications in our ecosystem. And those kinds of topics and moving software to a more permissionless, extensible, and decentralized place is the core of MetaMask's mission. We want a future where people's desire to use secure, extensible software is not limited by large tech giants who have their own advertising-based models and who are not so sympathetic to Web3. I don't have anything specific to point to, but I do think that this general direction is going to be increasingly important for our whole ecosystem to push for better standards for the things our ecosystem needs.
I think platform risk is really a key word here. And that's why I'm personally not bullish at all on native mobile apps that talk to Web3, because the platform risk is even greater. Whereas at least on the web, there will always be a way to access this web interface from various kinds of browsers and operating systems. So I think whatever the case is, the platform risk will be less on the web than it is on mobile.
And to Jacob's earlier point about having our ecosystem fight this kind of model, what can users expect in the future with this new period of mutual collaboration between MetaMask and Ledger? Any sneak peeks?
Yeah, so on the MetaMask side, we are working, as I mentioned before, making hardware wallets really a first-class part of the MetaMask experience. So making it possible, first, having great hardware wallet integrations is the first point. The second point is making it possible for people to onboard using hardware wallets is an important part of our roadmap. And then bringing hardware wallets to MetaMask Mobile is the third and obvious one. We are especially seeing the growth of MetaMask in more diverse markets, more diverse use cases, and having hardware wallet support across the stack is absolutely critical.
And what about the Ledger side, Charles?
So on the Ledger side, we're working hard to also make sure our devices are the way you can bring your keys to Web3 wherever it is. Right. So MetaMask is one great example, and making sure that connectivity works well. On our Ledger Live application, we are investing a lot in supporting more assets and more app ecosystems that are being built right now. So, for example, Polkadot, Cosmos, Solana, all the big chains that are emerging today. We want to support that, and we're also really making dApp interactions native to the hardware, which means that you can see clearly what you're signing on the device when you're interacting with these new applications. Because that's one of the, I would say, less understood risk in all of this, is that once you start interacting with these smart contracts, they have great power over what they can do with your assets. So it's important that the user sees clearly what is it exactly they're signing. So we're spending a lot of time to make sure this works well, and this works well for all the top DeFi and NFT applications out there.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. Question to Jacob, but also to Charles, actually. How do we go from 10 million monthly active users, which is the latest number that we have, to 100 million? Where do you see both of you actually? Where do you kind of see MetaMask and Ledger 5 years from now?
So one of the things that's been really important is the diversity of use cases of the ecosystem. When I first joined the MetaMask team, there was a huge push around DAOs, and DAOs had grown as a new use case that worked well. with the existing level of where the protocols were at. And those DAOs onboarded a lot of people into MetaMask. They were then, there was a big peak of gaming, like, early 2020 as well. And then there was DeFi summer, and then art NFTs, and then another DeFi wave. The growth that we see is going to be increasingly diverse in terms of its use cases, in terms of its the backgrounds of the people who partake in these use cases. And they'll be more international. There'll be different types of people. We as an ecosystem have a really important responsibility to make our software as both as accessible and as secure as possible. And when I look at the products that we've built today, I believe that our ecosystem has been able to grow so much because of the value that's in the protocols and the value that's in this decentralized web that people really deeply want to be a part of. But I don't believe that we yet have the user experiences that will enable 1 billion people. And fixing that and getting to a delightful user experience with really hardened security is the most important mission that I think we can have. We say that MetaMask's mission is to democratize access to the decentralized web, so to make it accessible to everyone, and then to build a new financial system and internet based on that. So, we are working hard on that mission.
Yeah, that's a great mission. What about you, Charles?
Well, just as Jacob said, like it's going to come from having this wide range of use cases. I think the concept of a crypto wallet or a digital wallet, right, will become so ubiquitous because you're going to be using this for login. You're going to be using it for identity, for proving ownership of certain assets. Physical people who make physical goods will also use this to sort of have digital twins of these physical goods that you can hold in your wallet. You have the whole gaming segment. You have the social networking segment, which you see with the Discord hinting at and adding sort of Web3 login capability and proof of ownership to their online communities. All of these use cases assembled together. That's how we'll reach this next milestone of 100 million.
Interesting. And speaking actually of Discord, since you brought it up, they actually backed down from that. I just read an article about this, I think yesterday. Jacob, would you have any insights with regards to that integration and why they backed down?
I mean, I don't want to speculate about the Discord's internal conversations, but I do think that there's both some very widespread misconceptions about the ecological footprint of our ecosystem, and some people who are very well-meaning who deeply believe those misconceptions. And there's also people who, they just come from Web 2, they've worked in ad tech for 10, 20 years, and Web 3 to them is nothing but a Ponzi, and it doesn't matter how much the environmental footprint of MetaMask improves, or sorry, not MetaMask, sorry, of blockchains that improve. They just hate it on principle. In terms of the environmental stuff, I mean, I can say that the majority of activity, like of transactions in MetaMask, happen on proof of stake chains, and not just like a narrow majority. Like the overwhelming majority of user activity and transactions already today happens on proof of stake chains. And the idea that NFTs are inherently some planet destroyer is also a misunderstanding of how energy consumption in proof of work chains happens. And it's also a misunderstanding of what's happening. I mean, Ethereum is very close to the merge and a migration to a proof of stake environment. And then already the user activity is already in proof of stake chains anyways. It is true that Bitcoin in particular is not interested in a migration to proof of stake. And, in a future where the price of Bitcoin is millions of dollars, then the economic incentives could support an environmentally destructive version of Bitcoin. I personally believe that is a real thing, but the vast majority of what people are doing today, and especially like the concern around NFTs, is deeply unrelated to climate change, and quickly the whole ecosystem is moving towards a more ecologically responsible place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to hear those insights from you and kind of understand as well the different kind of power games that are happening between the Web2 models and thinking and the Web3 revolution that's kind of taking place at the moment. So it's time to move on to our last segment of the show. This is a tip for crypto first grader. Charles and Jacob, you've both been involved in crypto for a few years now. If someone's listening to us that is about to kick off their crypto journey or just kicked off their crypto journey, what would be your top 3 tips that you'd want them to follow?
Well, I only have 2. The biggest risk for newcomers is clearly phishing, because phishing makes it puts users in a position where they're asked to reveal their keys or their recovery phrase, and that's the biggest risk. So a tip for newcomers is to understand the power that comes with having these keys, and also be very vigilant as to people who are trying to help and asking for specific information about your wallet. That's a big risk for newcomers. And then, of course, having a hardware wallet is a great way to get some peace of mind as to, like, whatever happens with my computer or my phone, my keys will stay secure and offline. So that's a great way to go.
Yeah, I'd say for new people joining the ecosystem, I think it's really important that people focus on trying products and using them, rather than, I think it's pretty common for people to enter the ecosystem by speculatively buying some asset, hoping that they'll get rich, without even understanding that asset. And what I tell people is to go and try a decentralized exchange, go and try a game. I like Decentraland. I think it's the best game to try when you're onboarding into the ecosystem, because it's super interoperable with the whole NFT ecosystem. Like, you can represent pretty much any NFT inside of it. You don't have to pay anything to onboard into it. It's not like there's some games where you end up paying over $1,000 to onboard into the game. It's not like that. You just join it, play it. You'll meet other cool people in the ecosystem and get friends, and there's lots of events and parties. I went to a pride parade the other day. It was super cool. There's also just generally a need to be a part of communities, and join Discord servers. Don't get sucked into the fissures that are on them, but just develop long-term relationships with people and try things and build. And that's a much more sustainable culture and way to enter the ecosystem than speculation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think these are great advice. I mean, try the products out, and understanding the culture and talking to people are definitely things that are going to be useful. Jacob, Charles, great chatting with you as always. Thanks for stopping by. I'm very excited to see how Ledger and MetaMask both work together in the future. And I think that most of our listeners are excited as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it. If you've enjoyed this and have further questions, both MetaMask and Ledger teams will be on Twitter Spaces soon, so drop by and join the conversation. This was On The Ledger from Paris with your host Moel Sayed. Till next time, take care. Au revoir. This content is provided for informational purposes only and is the sole expression of our opinion, and should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. Do your own research. Any loss or profit is your sole responsibility. Stay safe.